Cheers me.
Cheers.
Episode 18 has now begun. Welcome back to the Matt and Carly podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and this is my wife and co-host, Carly.
Curly fries.
Curly fries.
Curly. Okay, say Carly.
Carly.
Say it like in a sentence.
Carly smells like poo-poo.
See, now you're saying it right.
I always do.
Say Carter.
Carter.
Oh, man. All right. We almost named Adam Carter. And for some reason, when Matt said it out loud, it sounded like Curter. And I was like, I can't do that for the rest of
hold on.
life.
We're gonna start over.
What?
You don't smell like poo-poo.
You're so nice.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Episode 18 of the Matt and Carly podcast has officially begun. Welcome back to the channel. This is my lovely co-host and wife, Carly, and I am Matt.
Good intro.
Thanks.
That was a good one.
Like I said, this is our 18th podcast. I personally do not know what we're talking about. This is a surprise for me, so we're just going to go with it.
Well, you are in luck because I figured that we could just shoot the shit for a minute and then talk about a really cool Netflix show that we're like 5 weeks behind, I think, on watching, but who cares? Yeah. So how are you?
What's the show?
Well, we'll get to there. We'll get there. How are you?
I'm good. I had an action-packed night of catching up on YouTube hunting videos, which I did.
Sorry, what?
The kids went to bed fairly early, and I binge watched like 6 episodes of different YouTube video creators. And I have one more that's 40 minutes long. It's a big one.
We don't subscribe to cable. We don't buy actual like satellite. Is this okay if I move this like this? Because I feel like I'm not. No?
Mm-mm.
How about like that?
Mm.
Okay. We don't subscribe to Comcast, cable, internet. Or no, we have internet. We basically don't buy cable channels from like big box cable providers. We used to. Yeah. We used to back in most of the places we've lived. Mm-hmm. But since we moved here, the only option is satellite, and we do not want to join in a 2-year agreement. I don't know. We had bad like experiences doing that in the past. So we were just like, you know what? No. But what's really interesting is since we've like cut the cord, does anybody cut the cord besides like McDodge? I mean, like cord cutter. I don't know what the definition is now.
You should not talk badly about your uncle like that.
No.
Because he watches this podcast.
Yeah.
From his treehouse.
To clarify, my maiden name is Dodge, and there's a weird guy named McDodge.
He's not weird.
Sorry,
weird.
I meant that in like a really nice way. Like he's a unique individual.
Offending everybody already.
We're off to a bad start. Okay, so anyways.
We don't have cable.
No, we don't have cable.
So we watch
lots of
TikTok,
internet things.
and we watch YouTube. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what we watch.
Amazon Prime and Netflix.
Amazon Prime.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that's okay, so what's kind of cool is I like the dedication that you can put forth toward a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I think since we've lived here, I've really jumped on the YouTube bandwagon. Obviously, like this is kind of, part of what is exciting about just being able to create and upload whatever you want to the internet is I love finding a channel or finding a person and then just like binge watching all of their stuff. Yeah. It's really cool. And like you kind of can do that when you have cable. Now, of course, with like Netflix, everything's kind of categorized and you can go back and watch all the episodes. But I don't know. I don't miss regular TV. I really don't. Like, oh, what time is it? Shit, I gotta wait till an hour to watch this. It's just like, what even is that?
So it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're going to talk about. I think I know what we're going to talk about. But I find myself throughout the week, like I pretty much understand when my favorite YouTube creators will upload something. Yeah. It's not set in stone. Like some people are like, I upload every Wednesday at 5 p.m. or whatever. My content producing people don't do that. Because it's more like they hunt. Yeah. Because I like to watch hunting stuff. They hunt, and when they have content, they post it. Yeah. So and they do it on a pretty regular basis. But mine's like every 2 to 3, maybe every once in a while 4 days, but it's usually every 2 to 3 days. So I find myself checking my phone
Yeah.
like a lot to see like, oh, like I said today, I'm like, I think today they're going to upload a video and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Well, to be fair, also their content is kind of time and seasonally sensitive. Like they, you don't always get a deer or an animal or do something or something weird happens or weather or whatever. So like there's a lot of things that they couldn't probably say, hey, we're going to upload unless they had filler content, but which some people
and they
do,
don't post stuff that's old.
Right.
It's usually from like the last week or maybe 2 weeks, which is good. Because there's a lot of people out there that post stuff that's like a month or two old, like backlogged videos that may or may not be like time relevant, but stuff I watch is time relevant.
That's true.
So that's why I got excited today, because like 4 of the people that I subscribe to all uploaded stuff, and it's like getting into that hunting season when like the entertainment value gets up there for me.
Do you want to give a quick snippet on how our hunting season has been going? And by our, I mean you and 10% me.
So yeah, Carly and I have been bow hunting when we can. When we have childcare, we have been both going out a little bit. We hunted. So the opening day of our bow season here in Michigan was October 1st, which is about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we did not see a deer the first 3 times we went out. And then I went out by myself and proceeded to miss probably the biggest deer I've ever had a shot at in my life with a bow. Shot right underneath him. And then after that day, I saw one deer on another set, and you saw a deer
by myself
when you were sitting by yourself when we were both hunting. And besides that, we have not seen a deer. Yeah, and it's been weeks.
Hunting is, I keep picking on him because I'm like, you picked the activity that is like the most, you have to be the most patient, and you don't always get anything from it. Like when you sew, or when you were like a crafter, you're just like, I'm going to sit down and make this craft. This is my hobby. Here are my materials. Let's see how well I can do. And then by the end of it, you're like, I have a craft. And either on a scale from 1 to 10, you're like, I did an 8. Or you're like, I did a 3. I'll try again tomorrow. But like your hobby is very, this is a compliment, but it really like challenges your character. It's a very good way to like kind of figure out who you are as a person, because mentally, physically, it's like every aspect of the hobby you have to be good.
Even if you're really good at it, you can still blow it like I did.
Exactly.
Yeah, my season right now, as of today, I could be like, this has been the best season yet. Because if I would have shot that deer, it was the big one that I showed in the last podcast. Yeah. The one that I had pictures and all the video footage of.
It was. Yeah. That was the one you showed. Oh God.
Yeah. So the one I showed, October 3rd, he snuck in with another buck almost right underneath me, and it was raining. Never heard him coming, and I kind of like had a mental like meltdown. Like I basically what happened was I used my rangefinder to find out how far away the deer were at a certain point as they were like quickly moving through my area. And by the time I drew back and I was holding it full draw and tried to stop the deer, him and another buck, like my brain just didn't realize that he had moved from the first time I ranged the first one. He had moved probably 10 yards further away from me diagonally. So when I shot, I used my 30-yard pin when I should have used my 40-yard pin. So I made a perfect shot. I thought was going to be a perfect shot, and my arrow went right underneath the deer and hit a log, and the deer ran off.
Hunting is very challenging, and the hardest thing for me this year, hunting out of a tree stand a few times alone, because I've always had, in years past, I've always had you to guide me. So if a deer did walk in, it was like, okay, like grab your thing. And then I'd grit it and be like, and my brain was like connecting, okay, I have to do this. I knew it. But you would be right there helping me out.
The timing part of it.
That's the weirdest thing, because you can't really do that until you're in that situation, and until you go through it a few times then you understand, okay, there's a cadence to how this has to happen.
Yeah.
And if then statements almost. Your brain has to go through, okay, if it takes a step right here, I have to do this.
Yeah.
If it looks at me, I can't move. I have to hold my, like if you're at full draw, it's like you let down and it's gone if it's staring at you, if it's right close to you or whatever. But it's funny because it really messes with your brain. So when I was sitting out there by myself and I didn't have you there and I had, like I knew most of, I was like, okay, I feel confident. I know what I need to do. And I finally had my own rangefinder. I finally had my own binoculars this year before I'd like nudge him and be like, I need that. And like, whatever.
We would usually hunt out of the same tree
because we
stand.
were right next to each other. Yeah. Or in a blind or whatever in the past.
Yeah.
But so this year it was just, I decided to go on my own and it was really fun because it is challenging and you know, it's just up to you. But holy crap, you're sitting there for hours and hours and hours. It could be over a series of days. And then all of a sudden you have like 30 seconds. And as soon as a deer walks in, it's so funny because you're sitting there the whole time for all of those hours and you're just thinking about, okay, where is it? And you're like looking back and forth. And then it comes out and your brain, like you just explained, it like shuts off and you're like, wait a minute. Oh my God, it's actually happening. Okay. And then you have to kind of collect yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess if you don't do it a lot, or if you haven't ever been in that situation, it really is challenging, like really challenging.
Well, and it's crazy too, because like, even if you're, well, most people have the ability to stay calm, like in a lot of situations, but like there's such a thing as buck fever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you just get this surge of adrenaline. Your body just like goes into hyper mode and it wants to do things really quickly. And then you have to be really calm the whole time.
Right. You can't move fast or you can't.
Yeah. Like the time where I missed this deer this year. So him and another buck, I knew basically they were both two bucks that I would shoot. And looking back, I could have shot the smaller of the two, like a chip shot. Like he was probably directly at 30 yards broadside, not moving. It would have been like probably one of my bigger deer and I could have shot him really easy. But before those two deer came in, the whole time it was raining. So I never heard a deer. Like I got glimpses of the deer as they came up. But before the two big ones came in, a decent buck and a real small one came in almost at the exact same place. But the difference was when they came in, I had time between when I saw them, between like when I caught glimpses of antlers in the trees to when they moved up to where like I could potentially take a shot at them. Mm-hmm. It was probably like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I had time to like think about, and range. And I probably would have shot the first 8 point that was there. He never gave me a shot. But the little deer came out, the little buck, and he was in front of me for like 15 minutes. So in my brain, I'm like, okay. And he was close enough where I'm like, okay, if I just move very slowly, don't do anything crazy so he catches my movement, I'm good.
Yeah.
When the big bucks came in, they didn't give me any time to prepare at all. Like I had no option other than turning super, super slow to get my bow out of the tree. And by the time I had turned back, basically like say from the time I saw them to the time I shot, like 50% of that time was already gone.
Yeah.
It was going so quickly. So it was like in just a short, say 10 seconds amount of time, you have to make a bunch of correct decisions and not get busted and not do something dumb and then get the information you need to be able to shoot and have the deer stop where you need it to. And it's like,
it's very hard to be proactive when you're hunting in a situation because there are so many different variables that can come into play. And then, you can think through a couple of them like, okay, I know that tree's 10 yards. I know that tree's 20. I know that's 40. And you can have an idea, but man, it's just, it's so challenging.
So the last time I sat and like to put it in perspective, we're in Northern Michigan and I have physically sat in a tree stand for like 3 hours at a time. I think I've sat already this year 15 times. I've sat either in the evening or in the morning, and 11 or 12 of those times, I have not seen a deer.
It's weird.
So it's been like few and far between. So it's like some situations, like I was thinking back on this the other night, some situations work out just like sheer luck.
Yeah.
Like everything happens perfectly. like the deer is not overly smart, and it like comes in and it just makes a mistake and like falls into your lap. And then there's sometimes when you do something that's just totally dumb and everything goes completely the wrong way. And like this time it was like everything happened that I needed to happen to get that deer besides one thing, one little thing. So it's like,
that's enough to just,
that's enough to, you don't get it. So
I remember when we first went out, not to like stay on the subject too long, but I remember when we first went to the spot that you took me in college, and we were hunting in a blind on the ground, and I didn't have a bow. I just went with you to watch or whatever. And we were wearing black, so we were hidden and everything. And it was the first time I had ever been exposed to hunting out in the wilderness. Like, I don't think, I mean, I really didn't do anything before besides fishing. So, sitting there and thinking, okay, we popped up this ground blind. You're telling me that there's deer that are just going to come walking out in front of us and not see us or smell us or hear us. It's like, yeah, right. Okay, great. And, you kind of, my original thought was probably more disbelief. I didn't believe it could happen because it's like, when you see big animals up close, it's like either a pet or you go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Or like wild animals,
you don't expect to see a 200-pound animal just walk out of a bush.
And you can make eye contact with it and it doesn't know what it's looking at. And it's so weird. So I remember sitting there and watching. There was a couple does that came walking right in front of the blind. And I was like, oh, like, what do? I can't move. Like, oh my God. And it's surprising at first.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's kind of shocking.
It is.
I mean, like you see like almost domesticated deer and turkeys, like in city areas where they're used to seeing people.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different animal.
Right.
Like they're not afraid of you. Like in Colorado, you can go to like Estes Park and elk will just be walking down the sidewalk.
Because they're
so used to it.
Yeah.
But when you get into a situation where, there are deer and they may have heard people, but maybe never gotten close enough to see a person, it's like, it's just different.
So weird. But anyways, you'll go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then.
So Carly and I, we found kind of a hidden gem, we're hoping. And there's a ton of fresh buck sign, big, like massive rubs where I think there's one big buck in the area making a whole bunch of signs. So I'm going to go there tomorrow.
We're hunting all public also this year. We've hunted private before, but it's that's also a challenge. But anyways, yeah, so we're going to do that. I was thinking about, no, we're not even going to talk about that. So
I think we should talk about the Netflix show we watched.
I was going to say, we're not going to go down another tangent. Okay, so
how do you want to lead into it? Because we had some interesting things happen where in the last week or so, different people in our lives have made comments to us about like news and media and information. And the funny thing is everybody we've talked to has kind of said the same thing. They're like, oh, I heard about something that's like brand new and nobody else really knows about it. And like you should check it out.
Yeah.
And like a handful of people have said the same thing, but it's all been different content. It's been like, mostly political stuff and a little bit about like the pandemic and stuff. But it all ties into this show that we just watched. Tell them about the show, babe.
So we sat down and watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I don't believe I remember who it was directed by, but it's about an hour and a half.
Yeah. Basically a movie.
It's basically a movie. Well, it's a docu.
Yeah, it's a documentary.
They do a really good job.
It's a Netflix special.
Yeah, it's technically. I think it's probably technically a documentary. It's got to be, because it's real people. But yeah, so the whole impetus of the whole entire documentary is basically how much we have lost control of social media and basically artificial intelligence and what the implications are in society today. Yeah. And it's
how it's actually changing our behavior.
Right. Like, and we've honestly, the gist that I got out of it is like, we've honestly just lost control, and the goal is to regain control because if we don't, it's going to be disastrous, and it's really weird.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, it's basically what they're talking about is the big tech companies like Google and Facebook. I mean, those are the two big ones. YouTube is part of Google.
Yeah.
But really, it's like Google and Facebook and Instagram and all the things that you log into, Twitter, that generate content or generate search results. And basically what it is that at some point, someone, an actual person or a team of people, wrote an algorithm. And if this is like over your head, basically an algorithm is a program that is self-learning. So an algorithm will it will evaluate how you use and view content that the site is sending to you or presenting to you. And over time, it changes to meet your individual reaction. So like in Facebook's case or whatever, they want you to look at their screen. They want you to spend the most amount of time on their platform as possible. So the algorithm will, regardless of what the content is, it will learn and adapt for your individual requirement to keep you to stay on the site. So the reason that's so scary, one of the big messages was they were talking about, one of the ladies was talking about on Google doesn't have the ability to look at something and say, is this true?
Right.
So the truth of everything doesn't come into play. It's basically their goal is to keep you on the site, because the longer they keep you on the site and the more you come back to the site, the more money they make.
Yeah.
That's basically it. So the algorithms are running kind of wild. I mean, they're not running wild. They're doing what they're intended to do. And every day they get better. But because there are no real laws around the way that they function, you're just served whatever it is that you want to see. You know, good, bad, untrue, true, whatever. And there is no way for them to actually look at the amount of content that's coming out and say, is this true? Should it be allowed?
Right.
At this point, they don't care. It's just serving whatever you want to look at.
Most of the people up until recently have not thought through basically what harm it could do. Like most of the people they were interviewing have said, you know, we started there, like a guy that worked at Facebook basically was part of the creator of the like button. And he was like, you know, we started this out so it would brighten your day and you'd see that a friend liked your photo and, you know, it kind of makes your mood go up or whatever. He's like, that was our goal. And then now, obviously, if you don't get a like, or if you don't get as many as you think you're going to get, or if a certain person doesn't like your thing, it's like there is such a deep psychological damaging moment that a lot of people have tied to that now. And it's really scary because the person who created it never intended for that to happen. It just has gone that way, either by machine learning, algorithm, whatever. Yeah. It's just gone down this path. And all of these, you know, I think at one point he quoted like 40 Silicon Valley like coders or whatever. You know, we never had the thought that this was going to happen or it was going to go this way. We were just sitting there writing code in our basements with our headphones on, being really quiet. Like what, you know, he kind of described it as if like, we're just like 40 white dudes in Silicon Valley just hanging out. Like we never thought this was going to happen. And it is really apparent right now, to tie it into our own real lives, especially during an election year, how divided it is making people and how apparent it is that everybody has two different truths. Not everybody, but I should say people have different truths and they're arguing those two separate truths rather than everybody having one truth, but having different opinions about it and arguing the different truth or the same truth. And the guy, I believe his name was Tristan. He explained that really, really well. And it was like, oh my God. And they showed a lot of graphs that showed basically the division, I think it was just in the United States, politically between the two major political affiliations that people have. Yeah. It showed, you know, kind of like a Venn diagram. And in the beginning, it was more of like a bell curve with a little bit of separation, but mostly overlapping, meaning in the early 1990s and into the 2000s, a lot of people were able to agree on something, or at least if they disagreed, it wasn't life-changing, or it wasn't, I don't know how you say it. It was not people were able to disagree respectfully.
Yeah.
And then now
they could come to somewhat of a compromise.
Right. Or they could
coexist.
understand each other's point without completely not being able to see it. And now there's the graph looks like just two separate mountains with a huge valley in between. Yeah. And, that to me, within our own family, within friends, like it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And I know that it's affecting people mentally and physically and emotionally. And that to me is like, man, like, I don't know.
The scary thing is too, and like, I'm going to toot my own horn for a second, but so like when you talk about the way that social media was before it was so important to make money for the companies, like the way that you saw content, it was still sort of controlled by an algorithm. But like back in the day, Facebook, like before Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, when you saw content, it was because you were engaging with that content. Right. So like when Carly and I worked at Cabela's, I managed the social media page for Cabela's, the pages. And at that time, it was before Facebook went public and was a traded stock. And so the monetization was still kind of up in the air. So the way that it would work is we would try to figure out the algorithm that was in place to maximize our exposure. So at a certain time, we knew that like likes was the key, right? So if you'd post something, if it would get 100 likes, it would go to a lot of of the people that liked your page.
Right.
And like a year after that, once we kind of got good, we knew that things changed and they had changed the algorithm and you had to do something different. And we found out that they shifted the importance from likes to comments.
Right.
So they wanted like actual engagement.
Yeah.
So like for someone liking a Cabela's post, it was cool, but the people in your friends list, it would be like, Brian liked a post by Cabela's.
Yeah.
They figured out that wasn't very good.
Right.
But if they left a comment, it'd be like, Brian left this comment.
Brian said this.
And it was more engaging for the brand. So when we figured out that comments was like the most important thing for the algorithm before monetization, I remember this is like crazy to think about, but we had store openings. That was like our big thing for Cabela's. So when we'd have grand openings, because there weren't a lot of Cabela's stores in the United States, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like people got really, really fired up about it. So
like camp out.
Yeah, like people camp. Like, yeah, so it was huge. And I remember I made a post on Facebook as Cabela's, and it was like, we just opened up a store like in Washington or whatever it was. Excuse me. And so I asked all of our Facebook people that followed us, I said, does anybody have a suggestion for where we should come next? And like, clearly we already had, like we knew where it was going.
Yeah.
But I asked the question just as a text post on Facebook, does anybody have a suggestion for where we should come next? And immediately people started going like, fill in the blank.
My hometown.
Everywhere. Yeah. And before it was over, I think we had over 33,000 comments.
Wow.
And I saw it later in the year. Somebody shared it with me. That post for Cabela's, like that I posted, was the #1 engaging post on Facebook for the week, like in the world.
Oh, wow.
That was the biggest post. It had 33,000 comments.
That's insane.
And it was all like fill in the blank location.
Right.
But that was like the algorithm.
Yeah.
So it was like the timing was perfect.
Wow. Yeah.
So everybody started posting it, and then all their friends started seeing it, and they were all posting it. And it was just like
the tipping point or whatever.
Nobody was hitting the like button. Right. Everybody was commenting.
Interesting.
But when Facebook went public and basically the algorithm like shut down, they totally squashed it. You could post whatever you wanted and it would hardly go to anybody. And they'd pop up and say, you can promote this post for $100 or whatever. Yeah, pay money. And then from that day on, it was like, it just got scary. Yeah. So like you would start seeing things in your social media feeds that had nothing to do with what you were doing.
Yeah.
So today, like when you go on Facebook, it's a like crapshoot.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I'm going to see.
Yeah.
It's basically whoever wants to buy my page, they can do that.
Yeah.
That's the sketchy part.
It's really, really interesting now. I mean, I don't know. It's the thing that I picked up on, or that it's really psychologically what this would do, I guess, to a person is, and maybe why it's so hard for people to be able to disagree or have a conversation with somebody who has a different viewpoint, is that what Facebook and social media big companies are serving you is content that they know that you will engage in. Yeah. So therefore being things that you already like, or things that they know you're interested in, things that they know are going to grab your eye or catch your attention. And what that's doing for them, they're not thinking about the psychological implications that has for a lot of people. They're just thinking, well, if we can serve these people content that we know that they're going to like and engage with, then we'll get more advertiser views, and we'll be able to, or we'll get more, viewers to sell to advertisers. Basically, we'll get more time from viewers to show advertisers that this is what we can provide to you. Like, these people are spending this much time, whatever. So what's crazy is, like, yeah, that's great. If your goal is to make money, and your goal is to basically provide your customers. So for Facebook, their customers are not their users. Their customers are advertisers.
Absolutely.
And that was really interesting. When he said that, I was like, holy shit, that's true. Like, you think you're the user of Facebook. No. Or you're the user, but you're not the customer. You're not the person that they're looking out for. You're like the scrap that they're trying to utilize, basically to sell. You're what they're selling. Yeah. And what is terrifying is the way that algorithm is working is they're selling, or they're showing you things they know in your brain you're going to connect with, but you don't ever see anything else. You don't ever see things. I mean, you might, but you see very minimal of the other viewpoint or another viewpoint or whatever. So then your brain becomes so conditioned to, oh, this is just how everybody thinks. And when you hear that opposing side or an opposing viewpoint, it's like the guy kind of described it. Right. The guy kind of described it. He goes, how are these people thinking this? Don't they see what I'm seeing? Like, how do they not get this? They're so stupid. And it makes you that to me is like, that's the two truths thing. If you accept what you're seeing and what you're seeing only as the truth, and you're never proactively seeking anything else, that is what is dangerous. And how many people don't know that that's happening? How many people are just flying under the radar thinking, how are these social media companies just doing this without any restrictions, without any balance, nothing. There was one lady that said, she was like a data scientist for Twitter or something. And she said, understanding how all of this stuff works, I purposely follow people that I disagree with so I can see a holistic view of what everyone else is saying.
It confuses the algorithm that would normally just brand you as something.
So then they they give you kind of balanced content. Yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's such a good thing. It's so good to have that. And that's such a healthy way to look at it. Oh my God. Dude, it gave me the chills watching that. I stayed up. We watched it probably at midnight. And I stayed up until 4:30 in the morning because my brain would not shut off.
Well, this is really interesting. And so working in the digital media marketing space, one of the things that was challenged a lot, from my professional career, the thing with, how do I want to say it? The reason digital marketing, and when I say digital marketing, it's like paying to put your advertisements online or sending emails or whatever for a company, right? That's digital marketing in a nutshell. Yeah. The biggest thing that was always challenged by people that had to spend money to buy these advertisements was if it wasn't a digital placement, say it was like a billboard on the highway or a newspaper. Excuse me, these things are they're very carbonated. I can't stop doing that. Okay. But anyway, traditional type advertising. Yeah. When you have a newspaper or a magazine, they can tell you how many people subscribe or have subscriptions to the magazine. Readership. So when you go to buy an advertisement in that, you say, okay, how many readers do you have? Right. How many copies of this is going to go out? They give you that number. Yeah. But they can't say how many people are actually going to see it. Right. That's a totally different thing. So in the digital realm, the reason why everybody loved it was so much was because you could get basically an impression, which is basically someone seeing it. Or I shouldn't say someone seeing it. When your computer or your phone or whatever, when it actually loads the advertisement on their screen, that's considered an impression. Okay. So not to say that they clicked on it or looked at it or anything, but if it had time to load on a screen, that's an impression. If you click on it, that was where like, oh, that's what we want.
Yeah.
How do we get the clicks? Right. So PPC is pay per click.
Yeah.
And the way that works is like when you go on Google, typically if you type something in, Google, the first thing on the very top of the search results will be a paid advertisement. So if you click on that, here's the interesting thing. If you don't know this, I always do this for companies I don't like. But if I type in something, if the very top one has a little box next to it that says ad, and the one below it does not, if you click on the link below it, they don't have to pay to do that.
You would.
So like whenever I would go to when we worked for Cabela's, for example, if I ever typed in Bass Pro, I'd always be sure to click on the Bass Pro advertisement and make them pay 25 cents every time I click on it. Yeah. So they're paying for me to click on their link. And I was going to go there either way. So if you like a company, go down to the one that says that it's not an advertisement and they don't have to pay for you to visit their site.
That's true.
But here's the interesting thing. In the Social Dilemma, they're talking about basically what we call the JND, the just noticeable difference. It's basically like when something changes over time, if it doesn't go beyond a threshold where you actually notice the change, it can incrementally keep changing at that level over time, and you never actually perceive a change.
Right.
So in the digital marketing world, it's like impressions, or when something loads on your screen, that was always kind of looked down upon because you're like, well, okay, we're going to pay for these advertisements based on the amount of impressions. Right. And impressions were always 100 times more than what clicks were.
Yeah.
Say you get like one person to click on your advertisement, but it loads or it has an impression 100 times. People would be like, well, the impressions aren't that good. We want to pay for the clicks. And that's what Google always did. You know, they would show your ad, but you'd pay if someone clicked on it. The scary part is now that Facebook, and Instagram, and Twitter, and, fill in the blank, these big algorithm data powerhouses have realized that people will actually change their behavior if they see something enough times without ever clicking on it.
Right.
That's scary.
That's terrifying.
That's the scary part, because basically what they're saying is, if you had like the I don't remember the guy's name. There's a guy with like big dreadlocks,
really
super cool guy. He talked about on a global scale, if an advertiser can pay enough money to change the world by 1%, that is a massive change.
Yeah.
So like in the past, when you're talking about engagement is what we call it. When you put your advertisements out there or your messages, or like right now, your political, propaganda.
Yeah.
If you only look at it in terms of, well, how many people clicked on my message? That's not basically what it has done. Is the understanding of the actual importance of just impressions now is so much more powerful than we ever thought it was.
Right.
Because we used to look down on that.
Right.
And it was always, not to say any names, but we had a guy that worked in one of my companies that basically wrote off this company because they said they could get us like 10 million impressions. And he was like, oh, that's stupid. I'd rather have 1,000 clicks. Right. Well, it turns out that guy was a dumbass. Sorry.
Or he just wasn't up on the times.
Yeah. But basically what it is like the proof is now hard that if you put your message in front of people enough times, constantly, without them having the ability to filter it, it will slowly change people's behavior.
Well, what is that called? I don't know what the actual terminology is for, and psychologically what it is, but when you hear a song enough times, even if it's a horrible song, and if you don't like it,
it'll grow on
If
you.
you were hooked
It'll
up to
grow on
like
you.
brain monitors and it showed over time you listening to the song over and over and over again, even if at first when you heard it, you're like, oh, I don't like that song. But you keep hearing it. It's the familiarity or something.
What were we just watching?
I can't remember what it was called.
Not just, but we were thinking it was about how to build a pop song.
Oh yeah. And it's basically like
it was basically like if a song sounds the same as most popular songs, that people will pay to have their song, a new song that has what it takes to become a pop hit.
Right.
They will put it after a very popular song and then after or before another very popular song.
So then it's like it sandwiches it in your brain.
You think, oh, it has to be another popular song. And over time, they just keep doing it, and then you believe that it is.
That's something that we haven't even scraped the surface on, but I've heard a sliver of the music industry and how it works now in terms of having all of this data and information. And you basically, when you write a song, some of these companies that are record labels or they're, sound scientists or whatever, sound engineers, they know that information. And I've heard ethically, like, is it fair to have something like that help you create a song?
Yeah.
Because I mean, anything's fair, I guess. Like, all is fair in love and war or whatever. But it's like, is that
tapping
actually
into subconscious?
You're actually taking away people's like free will. I think that's what the social dilemma really pushes. Like, what I got out of it was basically people's free will is starting to diminish.
Right.
Your ability to be able to think and act for yourself just based on your values or your ethics or your morals or whatever is going away, and you don't even realize it. Like the JND, the just noticeable, you don't even realize it's happening.
It already has happened.
And
that's what they were saying. It's like, it's already here.
The crazy thing is they related social media and internet basically to being artificial intelligence, the way that people who created the Terminator.
Right.
It's like, excuse me, I'm doing it too now. Oh.
People have romanticized the idea of like AI, artificial intelligence, being something like of the future.
It's like animalistic. They've made it animalistic where they have an actual person representing this huge concept of artificial intelligence. And in the past, when people made movies like Terminator and Terminator
Isn't
2
that personified?
Yeah, personified. Yeah, you personify a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like an idea or whatever.
It's basically like they're personifying artificial intelligence in like these scary robots that are spitting oil and fire, and they're like coming into your house and coming to like take you away, fly up into the space, whatever. That's like what they're putting out there. But the scary thing is, and what he said in the Social Dilemma, he goes, and they showed a couple clips of the Terminator, and it's like, I'll be back. Or whatever. Yeah. He goes, the scary thing is it's here. It's in your pocket.
Yeah.
Like, what they're saying in those movies is happening right now at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
And the silver lining of this documentary was basically this one guy, and I'm sure there's a huge team of people that are with him, but he created the Center for Humane Technology or something like that.
He was the director of efficacy at Google.
And
which is why he left Google.
Yeah.
Because which is ironic because he was like, hey, everything we're doing is great.
Are we thinking about any of this stuff?
Is any of this stuff actually good for the people that are using it? And everybody was like, we don't care.
But money? Question mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's the scary part, because this whole thing, everything that we're talking about right now could actually just be turned off immediately.
Yeah.
But the financial implication that these gigantic companies that are running everything right now would have happen to them would just, I mean, it's more money than most people could even fathom.
Well,
that would be lost.
In shareholding corporations, the goal is to go higher than what you were the quarter before or the year before. You always have to go year over year positive growth, or shareholders will not invest or whatever. And that in and of itself is like the root of evil. It is terrifying understanding, because at some point it has to break. It can't keep going.
Like, you and I have both been part of companies that have
failed because of that.
We've had meetings about we don't care how we have to get there, but we have to hit this 10% growth or we're going to lose our jobs. People are going to
get fired and we're going to lose.
And it's not like, hey, what can we do for the betterment of our industry?
Right.
No, it's like, hey, our CEO has a call in 6 weeks and we better be at our point of growth. And what do we need to do? Like start pulling levers.
I'm really glad that we have had that experience because understanding that fully. And I mean, there's got like, we understand enough to be dangerous. Like we understand enough to know how that works, I think. But it is scary when you think about the product or the thing that people are selling are basically people's free will and people's minds. It's one thing if it's hunting clothing and like fishing stuff. And if you don't sell enough, like people, whatever, a small percentage of people will be affected. But on a global scale, like they're talking about, it's like,
well, the thing that's really freaky, and the point was brought up, is that human beings have basically the same mental ability, like across the world, that you have slight variations in intelligence throughout, the human race.
Like processing power.
Yeah. But the type of like, call it warfare, like psychological warfare that is like happening within these platforms right now is so far beyond fair from what it was, say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Because what it is like another human being by themselves or even in a group doesn't have the brain power to manipulate masses of people
for the most part.
like a modern computer with the processing power that it has with the algorithms that are in place. It's not even close to being fair.
Right.
So it's like when you look at like the ethical manner of how these companies are operating, it's like you have a computer that's probably one of the most powerful computers in the world right now. And you're putting it up, like the guy said, like on my screen, like it's my brain. And on the other side of the screen, it's a supercomputer that is like constantly analyzing my brain.
Right.
But I'm not doing anything to combat that.
Right.
So it's like, you're just sitting ducks. Like if nobody ever brought it up, over a decade or 2 decades,
which is what
like
has happened.
the amount of brainwashing that people, because number one, most people don't care.
Right.
They're just like,
well, yeah.
Whatever.
Didn't he say in that people are like, well, what's the big deal? It's just this.
Right.
Or all I'm doing is just looking at
they
so-and-so's
downplay it.
thing. And it's not even that they downplay it. It's just the complete lack of knowledge that it's occurring.
Right.
Because it's like they don't even know what
they think that it's innocent. And it was.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago when everybody's mom got on Facebook and we're like, oh shit, mom's on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this is fun. I can see like my kids and I've got like a group of friends and like that's what it was.
Right.
But now it's like
they're targeting those people who are probably not like,
They're taking what the people that signed up for the accounts, like on Twitter and like YouTube, they're taking the information from a very large group of people.
Yeah.
And they are basically like what I do for deer hunting. I pattern groups of deer and then I apply that information to new groups of deer that have never seen hunting pressure.
Right.
And they don't stand a chance. Like they don't. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like when you take something that a group of people give up willingly, the fact of the matter is most people are very similar.
Oh yeah. You find like
if they can profile you, they can find other people just like you in different cities
and they know
or
exactly
countries.
How you're going to act and what you're going to do. And
So it's like they've given the companies
targeting.
with the data. Yeah. I mean, that's what the companies that we worked for were trying to do. Like we were trying to figure out who we were selling to.
But actual
Google
title was
Facebook,
targeting analyst. Like I actually
like that's
took
what
data
we did.
and like tried to figure out what somebody's next step was going to be.
My job with social media was to identify who I thought our customers were and list their attributes.
Yeah.
Were they 55 and male?
Right.
Do they like to deer hunt? And they also like to fly fish and they like to camp and they live in the Midwest.
And you know exactly what catalog to send them to get them to spend the most money.
Well, and at that point, like what I was doing was an educated guess.
Yeah.
What Google is doing is fact.
They know what you're going to do before you do it.
They know what month of the year you were born.
They're influencing you to do something that you wouldn't have done before. That's what they said.
Create you. They can take you from what you are and feed you information to turn you into something that you aren't currently.
The guy,
and that's freaky.
I forget who said it, but he was like, they're basically taking your information, feeding you content, and you are doing things that you would not have done if you would not have been served what they served you. So they're literally manipulating. And, you know, the crazy thing is, it's like, and my thought too, in the beginning of the movie, when I first started hearing all that, I was like, yeah, but like, you could just turn it off if you wanted to. But, and which you can, everybody can, you can disconnect.
But there's an addictive
part of it, which is, you know, when you buy a pack of cigarettes, that one lady said, actually, that lady said a couple really, really good things. She said, like, when you buy a pack of cigarettes, there's a warning label on the side. And it says, warning, this might cause cancer. Don't smoke these.
Right.
Because they have to. The laws have been passed. They've figured it out. It causes cancer. You have to be able to see that. And then it's like, it's up to you. Your choice, free will. Like, you do it. Here's your warning. And then, you know, when you buy alcohol, I'm sure there's something that says it, or whatever.
You've got
like
an
there
age
are
limit.
laws around, right? There are laws. Yeah, exactly. There's
and there
age
are
limit.
regulations
Gambling.
around how much you can do to do other things.
Exactly. Gambling, like hunting, you have to be a certain age. Like driving a car, you can't, because there's risk. There is implicit risk of if you do this.
Even like banks have, like for us, because we're not rich, like
can't,
if you spend too much money, they go, whoa, what are you doing? It's like, you know, like there are things where behavior is monitored, and it's controlled,
and they know.
And
at
with this,
what
it's
age,
like you can sit on Facebook or you can sit on whatever. Like
it's almost
I watched 2 hours of YouTube tonight. Nobody told me like, hey, you might have a problem.
Well, it's almost like it's almost like when laws are in place like that, or at least even not even laws, but just regulations.
Yeah,
it's like somebody at some point sat down and said, okay, hold on. This is really addictive. This is highly addictive shit. Yeah. We need to give these people a fair chance. Want. Right. They want you to be addicted.
They want it. That's what they're going for.
Exactly. Like there has to, like we have to give these people a fair chance. Like this is a little much, guys. Like sitting in a group of people like cigarettes. Okay, we got to add, whatever. So what the hope.
It's funny to me. Like at this point, this is the funniest thing. How many times have you heard, like usually from older people, like, oh, you know, you guys are looking at your screens too much. It's bad for your eyes. Not to mention, like, they're worried about like, oh, your eyes are going to get like worn out. No, how about it's going to change who you are as a person?
I know.
Like, hey, you're watching too much Instagram and you might start cutting yourself because depression is going to kick in.
So sad, dude.
Like, it's so much different than what people were like, oh, don't stare at your computer.
Right. Don't sit too close to the TV.
Like, I'm more worried about my kids like committing suicide because Instagram doesn't give them enough likes.
Oh, it's so not.
I know.
Funny. It's so sad.
But it's just,
some of the data that they shared in that movie.
It's funny because it's so much bigger of a real problem in the world than anybody thought it would be.
It's literally life and death.
Yeah.
And it's not only life and death, but it's the death of like the mental group of population that's going to change. I mean, it's
and like for me, I guess for me personally, like within social media, like I would love for our podcast to like blow up and like be like podcast superstars. Like that'd be cool. That'd be awesome. Great. Yeah. But like if it doesn't, whatever.
We're having fun.
But like for people that are like 12, 13, 14 right now, and like seeing maybe in your own group of friends where like Becky has like 25,000 followers and I have like 30.
Right. Oh my God.
Like it
puts a number to your popularity.
Exactly.
It's scary.
Like, it's not even like in the old days, it's like, oh, this guy is popular. I'm not popular. It's like an opinion.
Right.
But now people can be like, well, I have so many Instagram followers. Like you have nothing. Yeah. It's like they actually give you a number to say like, I'm popular. You're not.
How many likes did you get?
How crushing is that for a young person?
Having kids and seeing that movie made me so sick to my stomach. That was the worst part of it was I thought about our kids so every second I was, because it's like we're old. We're the last generation. You realize that? I heard them say that in that movie.
Of what?
We are the last generation that didn't have social media when we were kids, when we were young. You and me, like Gen Z or whatever we are. We were the last. Are we Gen Z?
I don't even
Gen
know what
Y?
I am.
Oh shit! What are we?
No, I'm not.
We're Gen Z.
Hold on. You might be.
No. You're in the same one as me. You're right on the tail end of it.
Are you sure?
I confirmed that a little while ago. Well, according to like most sources. Hold on.
All I know is this: when I was young, the cool thing to do was to get on a dial-up internet source and get into a chat room And when you started chatting with someone, this is going to date me. When you started chatting with someone, they would give you like 2 numbers and an F or an M. And it would be like, I'm 14, male. And you'd be like, oh, cool. You don't know if that's true or not. That's just what they said to you.
I'm stupid. We're millennials, not Gen Z. Gen Z's after. Yeah. So millennials, as defined by Wikipedia, is 1981 to 96. So technically we are in the same millennial. I'm so stupid. How did I say Gen Z?
It's because you've had 2 White Claws.
What an idiot. God, that was so non-millennial of me.
It's claws. You've been drinking the claws.
How stupid. Okay, sorry. Now I'm beating myself up. Yeah, but we are millennials.
Okay, this is. We're
the last group of like untainted childhood people.
Yeah, the guy goes, how do you know that you should be trying to escape the Matrix when you don't know you're in it?
Yeah, it's not a fair chance.
Well, I mean, like for me, I remember when we like didn't have the internet,
right?
Like, and a lot of people don't, but like. Even if you don't have the internet access at your home with Wi-Fi, most people have data on their cell phone. Mm-hmm. I remember when I didn't have it, like I can recall, this is the one thing that stands out in my brain. I remember I had just gotten my driver's license and I was driving, like looking back now, I was 20 minutes away from my house.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I was like out in the country. And I was like,
I'm lost.
Yeah. And like the funny thing was I had a cell phone at this point.
Yeah.
So I must have been like 17 because I think I got a cell phone 17, 18. I can't remember. I think it was 7. I might have been 18 because I think I had to get my own cell phone. Yeah. So I might have been 18. Anyway, it was like when I was a young person and I remember I was out in the country driving around and I got to a point where I was like, shit, I don't know where I am. Like I need to get back to my house. I don't know where I am. And I'm like looking at the stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what city I'm in. I have no idea where I am. I'm freaking lost. Like I'm lost in the country. And I started like kind of going like, oh shit. So I'm like, all right. So I called our landline at our house because I don't think my parents had a cell phone. I called our landline. My dad picked up and I said, dude, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. He goes, okay, well, look in the sky. And I said, what? He goes, where is the sun? And I was like, why the hell do I care where the sun is, Dad? I'm lost. And he goes, what side of the sky is the sun in?
Right.
He goes, it rises in the east and it sets in the west. He goes, where were you? And I was like, well, I was 20 minutes north of the house. He goes, okay, now where's the sun? And I'm like, okay, it's over there. He goes, well, now you know where west is. He goes, go south and you'll come home. And I'm like, thanks, Dad.
Oh my gosh.
And that's before Google or Garmin or like those things were popular.
Right.
That's like what life was. If I told our kids
when's the last time you've gotten lost? When's the last time you've truly been not in the woods on your feet?
Oh, well, yeah, I got lost in the woods because my phone messed up. But
yeah, when's the last time you've actually been lost?
That time. Yeah, but like imagine like 10 years from now when Lila starts like getting like driving. Be like, yeah, like I had to call Grandpa and I had to like navigate home by where the sun was in the sky.
You Moana.
Think about that.
He Moana'd your ass.
Yeah, I Maui'd it.
You were a wayfinder.
I'm serious. Like imagine what she's going to say to me when I say, I called my parent on a phone that was connected to the wall of their house. And luckily they were home to pick it up off of the wall.
Oh, man.
And they could talk to me. And by the way, I had to pay for every second of that phone call.
I miss those days.
She's gonna think I'm lying.
I'm not kidding. I know that people think we're a little nutty, but like I don't mind living out in the country and just being disconnected. Like,
but how sketchy is it now?
We're not even disconnected.
That when I go on and look at like, fill in the blank. When I go on and look at diapers online, they know that I have like a 2-year-old little boy, and then I'm going to start seeing advertisements from whatever because they know how old I am. They know what websites I go to. It's like, that's how different the world is. Nobody even knew where I was the day that I was lost. I could have driven off the road and died, and nobody'd be like, hey, where'd Matt go?
Oh.
Now they'd just be like, oh, just track his cell phone. We'll find him.
Yeah.
Like, think about how crazy that is just in like 20 years.
I miss those simple. Doesn't it feel like,
Sketchy.
Can you feel, okay, here's a question personally.
Mm-hmm.
Can you ever feel internally your brain getting overwhelmed with the amount of information that there is out there and how much you should be consuming. Like, here's an example. Like, oh man, I could be learning this. I could be doing this. I could be watching this. What if, well, I don't want to miss that. Like,
right.
Do you feel yourself? I can feel myself get anxious when I know that there is, it's almost like your brain feels like, oh, I have a to-do list because I know that there's so many things I could be doing right now online. But back in the day, there wasn't even that option. So your brain never got to that level. I can tell you right now,
the kids that are going through school and they have access to Wikipedia and Google,
you don't get all A's, I swear to God.
If you fail a class, just call it quits.
Our first grader.
If you fail anything, like, okay, so hold on. That TikTok.
Our first grader
you showed
laughed
me a TikTok.
at your mom today about not knowing, not knowing, but about using a handheld mouse more than she did. She goes, Grandma, I use a mouse all the time. And I was like, what? I just hear that. She's 6.
Yeah. So
she's 5.
The funny, we saw a TikTok pop up. I think it was on Carly's feed, and it was very relevant because it was from a young lady that was attending Michigan State.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm going to say it wrong. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. She goes, yeah, so I'm in this class and like, I'm the only one that speaks up and asks questions anyway. And she goes, I'm on, I'm paying to go to this class because I'm going to Michigan State. And I asked the teacher a question and he tries to explain it to me and I didn't quite get it. So I said, well, just explain it to me again. I didn't quite understand that. And she's doing online classes because everything's shut down.
Yeah.
She goes, so I'm paying to be taught by this professor online. And she goes, so I said, hey, can you explain it to me again? I didn't quite understand that. And his response was, just Google it. I would have burned down something. The amount of money that we paid to go to college, if a guy would have said, Google it,
internet.
I would have been like, I'm going to fucking find you.
Don't swear. Oh my God.
I'm like, dude. Oh man. And it was so funny because she goes, I am paying so much money for you to teach me, not Google. Like I could do that for free by myself.
Dude, it was that
I could not imagine.
It was that video where the people hit the camera and she was like, Google.
Oh could you imagine?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
it made my blood boil just hearing about it.
In fairness. No, yeah, there's not much fair about
there's
that.
No way. I can't it just shocks me.
Yeah. That's pretty weird because
but seriously though, that's college courses.
Yeah.
I mean, besides like if you're a doctor,
right,
or like, a lawyer probably is, I'm not either one of those things, but like most things you can learn a lot about online. I mean, you're going to have to sift through the BS a little bit.
It takes a lot more time and it's not as pretty and packaged.
There's going to be some trial and error.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I could figure out almost anything on Google. Pretty much.
It's
But yeah, so I don't even know where we were going, but it blows my mind how far things have developed and come. Mm-hmm. And like, to get back to the social dilemma thing, the people that were being interviewed were like very legitimate people from major companies. Yeah. And when you hear it, when you're actually inside of meetings in companies where you're like, you're not coming out and saying like, how can we manipulate our customers to do exactly what we want? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
All advertising is. That's 100%.
Like,
it is just.
How can I take this lump sum of money and make the people that know who I am do exactly what I want?
Do you know how many psychology prerequisites you had to have to be an advertising or communications major?
I don't remember how many it was, but it was a lot of an overlap.
It was like every one of them. You had to have 400 level psychology classes or like 300 level before you could start getting into, or even, there was like psychology of communications, psychology of like buying power. It was like the
thing that kind of, and we didn't get that great of advertising degrees.
We have social media driver's licenses, people.
So the difference between what we did, what we did and what like apparently this guy from this video did is like very unsugar-coated. Yeah. Like we did the sugar-coated thing. We're like, come up with advertisements, come up with like media plans, come up with, like timing and frequency of like how you would do it and the message. And the guy Tristan, who was like the director of efficacy at Google.
Yeah.
They showed him like in a class when he was at Stanford, and they were talking about very, very deep level psychological tactics to make people perceive things. It's the same thing as advertising, but they're like,
is it fair? Is it even fair anymore?
They were like, oh, how can we tap into this subconscious level of your brain to make you do something that you don't really want to do?
And you don't even know.
That's the difference between his college education and ours. It was like, they just went right to the point of like, we're not going to mess around. Like, we're really going to take it to these people. Like, that's just the difference.
Dude,
but it's sketchy because when you get a company full of people like that together, yikes.
And smart people. They're all brilliant-minded people. And that's like no shame to the people that have written the code or done all of the things. They're brilliant. I mean, they've exceeded any expectation that anyone had. And they're going so far beyond. The one lady said, in the history of mankind, internet companies are the wealthiest that have ever existed.
Yep.
Like,
and there's no stopping them until somebody stops them.
Take that into like, I mean, think about that. The history. I don't know where she got her data. I'm just going with it. The history of mankind.
Yeah.
They're like, that is insane. So it's like, there's no shade to these people that have created this stuff because they're genius. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do and they exceeded every expectation they needed or they had. But nobody put the horse before the cart and said, whoa, hold on. We need to make sure that we're not going to screw up so many people that
it's always been a joke. It's always been a joke in the digital space. It's always been like this like ha joke. But today it doesn't seem as funny. And it was like anytime you talked about paying Google, like, okay, we're going to like Google Plus pages came out.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, it sucks, but we got to do it. It's Google.
Yeah.
And it would be like, you know, the pay-per-click stuff, like search engine Google, people pay like whatever Google wants because that's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
And so when Google comes up in conversation, they'd be like, yeah, that's Google. They're just taking over the world. Now it's not so funny.
Not so funny.
Because they're like proving
actually happening.
Like Google and Facebook and these places where people, just massive amounts of users go, they can sway. Like when they were talking about when you type in a certain... like if you type in a certain
sentence,
partial sentence,
phrase,
like you would think that everybody that types that in sees the same thing. It's not.
Right.
It's everything is tailored to you.
Right.
So it's like
and your location and your search history and your user patterns and
like what color is, and then it autofills. Like it will give you things. And when you start to read those things, they're impressions. They're persuading you to think certain things and to, you know, have those things.
Right.
It's called mind space.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is. People have a certain amount of mind space, and Google is actually doing it with all of their basic functions.
So 2 things. The first thing is there was one quote in that movie that said, or in the documentary that basically said, there are 2 industries that call their customers users.
Yeah.
One is illicit drugs or illegal drugs, and 2 is software. And those were like the user. And it's just like, that was such a, I read that and was like, oh my God. The second thing is what you just said. So basically in Google search bar, if you and I were sitting right next to each other, say I was like,
we'll do it. Get your phone out.
Yeah, that's actually,
we'll do it right now.
So what's really crazy is 2 people who are right next to each other could have totally different autofill things. And
type in, I like to.
Okay.
We'll see what happens if our Wi-Fi will actually work.
Oh, wait.
Mine's like dragging right now for some reason. What's going on here?
Mine is too. You have to clear your like pages and go to a fresh Google.
I just did.
This
is one of the joys. Is it working for you?
No, it's not.
Okay, just kill your Wi-Fi. Hey, welcome to our world. We pay for Wi-Fi and cannot use it anyway. Okay, so type in no capitals. We'll just do the same. No capitals. I space like to and then hit space.
On Google.
Yeah, on Google.
Do you have the Google app or are you on the browser?
Browser.
Okay, I gotta go to the browser then.
Yeah, okay.
So that's different.
I typed in, I like.
What browser are you on? Safari?
Safari.
Okay, I'm gonna go there.
I typed in, I like to.
And you have to have a control in this test.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm getting search results. Mine's, I like to move it. Song by Reel to Reel. I like to eat apples and bananas, which
Kids.
Which is I like to, yeah.
You have kids.
And then I like to move it, Madagascar, which must be a movie.
They literally just watched that yesterday.
That's weird.
They
Not
did.
on my phone. I like to Singa, 1936 film. I like to Rock, song by April Wine. I like to make stuff. And then I like to make myself believe. Fireflies, song by Owl City.
I like to make myself believe. That
And
one.
then I like to in Spanish. Those are what my search terms on the first, basically, like. You gotta turn the Wi-Fi off. It's not working.
I did, and then it didn't work after that.
No, you're back on Wi-Fi.
I know, because it didn't work outside of it.
Oh, hurry up and kill that thing.
Stop it. Hold on.
What are you doing? Honey, it's not gonna work.
Why?
Our Wi-Fi is not working, period, right now.
Here.
Yeah, just turn it off and then just use your LTE.
Do we even have LTE?
Yeah, I just did it. Now refresh. It'll take a second. It'll go.
Okay. The second thing while that's loading is
This is what we do every day of our lives. We're like, is our Wi-Fi working?
Which is ironic because we're talking about how it's taking over the world. And we're like,
I can't do anything. Yep. I can't do my podcast because.
So, second point that I had was,
why is it not working?
that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Just
They know we're trying to do an experiment to get them.
Stop it, Google.
Stop it.
Are you in that camera right now?
Stop it. So, okay. Oh, there it goes.
There we go. I like to no capitals and then hit space.
Space. Okay, we'll let that load. Oh.
Here, let's compare. Are they the exact same things?
Yeah, they are.
Interesting.
Are you signed in to your?
Yeah.
Are you signed into yours? I'm not signed in at all.
Oh, we'll sign into yours. Wait, maybe I'm not. Let's sign into ours and try it again.
That's probably the problem. So my second point was,
I don't even know how to sign into Google.
You just click on sign.
I'm just joking.
Oh. So Malcolm Gladwell, who is a fantastic author. He's a scientist. He's a philanthropist. He's so many things. He's awesome. I've read most of his books until recently. I have not followed up on a couple that he has, but I don't know my password. Oh no.
You don't know what your password is?
Did I get it? Yeah.
Okay, I got mine.
So
all right, let's do it again.
He wrote a book called Blink.
I'm getting the same thing over. I'm getting the same things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I got the same thing.
Interesting. So
are we really that similar of people?
No, it was from a desktop.
Try something different. How do you
grade a Petoskey stone?
How do you, and then hit space one time.
Okay, I did.
Okay, what does yours say? How
to say thanks in German, say sorry in Spanish. How do you know 2010 film? How do you get a UTI? How do you get a yeast infection? How do you get rid of gnats? Do you have those?
How do you get shingles?
How do you get shingles? Do you have the yeast infection thing?
I have the same thing.
You have the yeast infection thing?
Yeah.
And the UTI thing?
How do you say seal in French?
No, I don't have that one.
Oh, well, I searched that one before. Weird. So we have the same stuff.
Ew. Why do you have the... Okay.
Well, this is totally debunked.
No. But
they're lying to us.
No, what they did...
What if there was somebody at Google right now going, hey, they're trying to... Oh, God. Give them the same thing.
It was from a desktop.
So that shouldn't matter.
Let's see. Let's type in a different one. Can I do something political?
Oh,
see if that does anything. Who should
I vote for?
Oh, see, mine. Okay, what does yours say?
Type in who should I vote and then space.
Who should I vote? Oops. Okay.
Okay, what does yours say?
Mine says, who should I vote for? Who should I vote for quiz? Who should I vote for in Michigan? Who should I vote for in Ann Arbor? Who should I vote for a test? Justice of the Supreme Court, local elections. Who should I vote for August of 2020?
That's what I have.
Weird.
But see, okay, so if you consider the fact that, like, that's a very relevant thing that a lot of people would be voting for right now.
Searching for.
They know we're in Michigan.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's like, it's not like who should I vote for in Texas.
Yeah. So is it geospacing?
So it's, well, yeah, they know where we live.
Yeah.
They know what is going on right now.
So let's do something that is gender different. What color? Type in what color.
Okay. What color space?
Yeah.
I
line.
I have what color is the dress?
Yeah.
What color is indigo?
Yep.
What color is Republican? Is the sun? Is pewter? Is taupe? Is transmission fluid?
Yep.
Is blood?
Yep. Okay. Type in how to.
Get rid of fruit flies. Make French toast. Get rid of gnats. Register to vote in Michigan.
Okay, I have something different.
Lose
I have
weight
different
fast.
things.
Screenshot
how
on
to
Mac.
speak Gen Z. How to tell what generation you are. How to communicate with Gen Z. I just searched that though. How to market to Gen Z.
So this is going to be weird, but I have actually searched the things that have popped up.
There's little time ones, and then there's little search
I don't have
ones.
that.
I have how to reset my iPad, how to clean a utility sink.
Yeah, these are just like recent
You
things.
probably have incognito.
How to
or
lose
like,
weight fast
You
before hunting season.
You
like,
probably have. You probably clear your history. I don't have
See,
it
like
set to
how to
auto
tie a
clear.
tie. That's not me.
Oh, interesting. I didn't have that. See, that's gender specific.
Yeah.
How to? I have.
What's your movie?
What
thing at the bottom? Mine has How to Train Your Dragon.
I don't have that.
2010 film. Well, anyway, this whole podcast might be just dumb.
No, I
not
think
true.
I honestly think it's probably
no. I mean, they clearly know who you are and where you are.
Yeah,
and they're serving you.
Yeah, because we
things.
got Michigan. I've had girl stuff. You've
Supreme
had
Court
guy
in Michigan.
stuff.
Yeah.
So what's really so basically there's a lot of okay. So what I was going to say was, the climate change one was one that when they were typing in climate change.
Yeah.
It was like how to combat climate change or something, and then all these different things came up.
Climate change is.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Okay, we're gonna test. We're gonna test this last one, then we're gonna wrap it up because I have a 40-minute video to watch, and I am doing it.
Geez. Okay.
I'm excited.
Climate change.
I'm excited
because okay. So this is a controversial topic, which is what.
Okay. I typed in climate change is, and I got caused by. Climate change is real shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Evidenced by which of the following Quizlet?
Yep.
It too late. Climate change is it too late. Climate change is accelerating. Is good. Is the biggest challenge. Is an existential threat.
Yeah, I have that too.
Okay, so here you go, people at home.
Yeah, you guys try this out.
If you get a different thing than us,
tell us what it is.
Leave it in the comment. If you type in climate change is, and then let Google autofill, ours are climate change is caused by, climate change is real shirt, climate change is evidenced by which of the following Quizlet, climate change is it too late, climate change is accelerating, climate change is good, climate change is the biggest challenge, and climate change is an existential threat. I'd be very curious to see where you are. So if yours are different, tell us where you are and tell us like the ones that are different.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So just to wrap this up, and you said a really good thing. You said like, basically what you're searching and the things that they're serving you, or how basically the search results come back and how Google prioritizes that based on their algorithm can change your perception of what is actually, even if you don't click on it, even if you just see the words. So Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called either Blink or The Tipping Point. I can't remember which one it was in. I think it might have been in The Tipping Point. But basically they did a double blind study, and it was like the people giving the study had no idea what they were studying. They just had to write down information of their participants that came in, and they had to record data. That was it. And then the people who were actually running the test got to like analyze it all. But neither group, the participants nor the test providers or whatever, knew it was happening. Double blind.
Right.
So basically what happened was they had two groups of people, same age, they tried to find as much of a control as they could. So it was like equal parts gender of the groups, equal ages, they were in college, like whatever. And they had the people read words before. I can't remember if they gave them a test, and the words in the test or the words that they were told, or they maybe like were read a story, they had to take a test.
Yeah.
The one story was about an old man that lived in Florida, and his life was, coming to an end, and he was very slow, and he was possibly had to be in a wheelchair, and they talked about him going through a surgery, and he had to like walk really carefully. So they were priming them with all these words of behavior of like this older man. And then they read the other group a story. And honestly, this could be totally wrong, but it's the gist. It's the gist of what it is. They read basically a bunch of words that were associated with old, slow, and like end of life. And then they read a bunch of words to a second group, energetic. They were talking, the story was of an Olympic racer who won a bunch of medals. And the way that they trained was this and this and this. And they had to be, on energizing supplements, and they ate food that made them run fast and blah, blah, blah. So they took this test. They had this comprehensive thing that they went through. And the whole part of the study that they actually studied, they didn't even like grade the tests. They were just like, okay, like I think what it was they were given a story and they said, how much can you remember of this story? That was all they were told. And they like threw the test in the garbage after the people walked out of the room. And what they studied was how quickly did they get up from their seat and walk down the hall on their way out. Right. They timed them. And the first group was like 10 seconds slower than the second group. They were the same age, the same group of people. But hearing all of those words and hearing the things that were like, the group that had like the older, their mindset was like in the, everyone's old and they had to walk slow. They literally changed their behavior without knowing it and walked slower, and they could measure that. And that to me is like, going through life, that's normal shit. If you surround yourself with toxic people, your brain is going to be primed a certain way. You're going to do things, maybe not even knowing it when you're around
it without you even knowing
when you're
it.
Around a toxic person or somebody who doesn't, whatever, a group of people or, whatever you want to call it. If you're exposing yourself constantly to something without being conscious or aware of it, your behavior can change due to that variable. Yep. And what that study showed was just exposing people to words and nothing else can change your behavior. And that to me is like what social media is and what that social dilemma is just, it's people figuring that out, but then leveraging it for money. Yeah. It's like,
well, and it's like,
save us.
Here's the thing that like,
we need to save ourselves.
The thing that I relate to,
this is so scary.
Like when we did have cable,
yeah.
Like when we actually had cable and we could watch like ESPN and whatever. Like I remember you've said this to me before, like late at night when our kids would be sleeping or whatever, like if there was a UFC fight on, like I'd click on it and watch, like if it was a good one, I'd watch it. But I would catch myself, instead of like sitting relaxed, I would catch myself like having my fists clenched. Like my actual body was like watching it.
I'd look over there and you'd be like...
I'd be sitting there like, and my knuckles would be white. Yeah. And I'd be like... Because my brain is engaging at a level with this without even realizing. I'd be sitting there with my hands like this, just watching them fight. And it's like, it's the same thing that people watch when you see all the protests and the rallying and all like this stuff. It does the same thing.
Well, it's the same like when you play a video game and you want to turn right instead of clicking right, you start going like that. Or when you're like...
Ask my mom someday about what I used to do as a little boy playing Mario. I used to get in front of the TV and I would jump. And I would do all the things that Mario did.
Yeah, but it's like, it's that similar part of your brain that's like, you're like affected by what you're seeing. And it has such an impact, especially on young kids right now. Oh my gosh, as a mother, I am more terrified than I was before, even just knowing most of the stuff. And oh my God, kids' YouTube is garbage.
Gag me now.
Garbage. And I admittedly will let them, I overextend their time.
No, I shut that down.
Yeah, they
sneak it. She tries to sneak it. Our oldest one does. But I shut it down.
We give them screen time. They watch TV. Like they watch Amazon Prime and like Wild Kratts. There's good stuff out there.
Is Stinky and Dirty your new favorite show on Netflix?
Love Stinky and
or
Dirty.
Amazon Prime Stinky or whatever it is.
And Dirty. He loves it.
Stinky and Dirty show.
But like, see, it's the same theme as Paw Patrol. There's like a problem. They have to work as a team
lower quality.
to fix it. Yeah.
Okay. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go watch the hunting public guys go shoot a big buck.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna believe that I can do it, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go do it.
Visualization. Okay, I have a challenge for all 32 of you, if you've watched this, or however many people watch this.
Yeah.
I challenge you to leave us an actual comment. Like, if you're watching this on your TV, grab your phone, go to our channel and type in what your thoughts are. Like, let us know if you're like, holy shit, I agree with you guys. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Or if you're like, no, it's not that bad. Whatever it is, like, leave us your comments. Tell us a story of how you felt in some social situations on media or whatever, or like how you feel like it's changed you, or has it not changed you, or have you realized that it has and then you've completely cut it out. Like, I know people, I have a cousin, I have close friends that have completely
cut out social media.
They take breaks, they turn it off, or they just don't have accounts. And it's like, you know, like, leave us that information. What has that done for you guys if you have cut yourself out, or do you feel like it's overwhelming? Like, sometimes I straight up get overwhelmed. Like, that's the challenge I have, for nothing other than just like, I'm so curious to know what other people think. And I've already shared this with like 5 different people after watching this thing. I'm like, you need to watch this. Oh my God. Like, well, call me back when you are done. Like, you got to let us know. It's just, I don't know. I missed my calling.
I think it is very real. It is extremely real.
Sure. It's real.
And it's freaky. Like,
the one silver lining.
My opinion is I don't think it's like made up or blown out of proportion at all. Because I've seen it firsthand.
They probably downplayed it.
Yeah. like I think it's a very, very real kind of freaky thing for the future.
The good news is, the guy Tristan, I'm not sure how to say his name. He's he was a cool guy. He said at the end, and I won't spoil it for anybody. No, I won't spoil it. But basically he said, like, they asked everybody. They asked everyone, like, do you think there's hope that we can change this? And their response was all basically silence, and then like, we don't have a choice. Like, we have to, or we will implode on ourselves more than we already are. And it was like, if you have not seen it, gave me chills.
if you don't have a Netflix account, find somebody that does,
or get a free trial and then cancel it.
Get a free trial for a week or whatever and watch it. It's called The Social Dilemma.
This is not
on
sponsored by Netflix.
Yeah, we're not saying to like download it, but figure out a way to watch it and listen to it with an open mind.
There's probably a lot of reviews online too that you could go on and listen to if you wanted to get more information about like how people think. So I don't know. Yeah, go on social media to look up The Social Dilemma, and then you know, you're gonna catch 22. Okay. It's bedtime. Past bedtime. We gotta go do some more stuff.
I'm going to watch a 40-minute YouTube video. So
go get served some algorithms.
Binge night.
Girl. All right. Thanks for watching. Whoever stuck with us through this one. We appreciate you guys so much. Leave us comments. Subscribe. Like. Do all the things. Oh, this is not good. Oh, don't do any. Delete your account. Bye.